Other NBA news. Dwight Howard wants to return to the NBA. He's 38. He took to social media on December 8th to hint at a potential return to the NBA, and he's trying for one more comeback. Last time we saw him was in 2022 as a member of the Los Angeles Lakers. Remember, he helped them win the title in the bubble in 2020. I think he's one of the all-time greats. I think he was shafted from not being on the top 75 all-time list. He's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He's an 8-time NBA All-Star. He played 18 seasons in the NBA, averaged 15 and 11, won a championship. I could argue he has a better resume than Anthony Davis. He wasn't half the offensive player that Anthony Davis is, and Anthony Davis is damn near as good as him defensively. So Anthony Davis is the superior player. The problem is I don't think he has superior credentials to Dwight Howard. And if he's in the top 75, Dwight Howard should be in the top 75. But I don't think that's the reason that Dwight Howard isn't in the league. When he had a trial with the Golden State Warriors and that couldn't work out, I don't think that was about basketball. In case y'all missed it, according to court documents obtained by Radar Online, and it was in the news in November last month, Howard was accused of sexually assaulting a man he had met on Instagram, and he asked the court to dismiss the case in the lawsuit. I will tell you that Dwight Howard is, he wants to come on this show, and I'm going to bring him on eventually, sooner than later, actually, if he wants to. But I know he wants to come on because there's a lot of lies he feels have been told about him, and he wants to address it. But in the same breath, court documents, there was admittance on his part that he had entertained. I think that's the right word to say. They had entertained sexual relations. That appears to be the case. And when asked about it publicly, he said, "Why is everybody in my business? It's none of anybody's business." I want to state for the record, Dwight Howard is absolutely right. It's none of anybody's business. That is true. And whatever his sexual preference or orientation is his business. But in the same breath, due to the fact that you're a public figure, people are not going to care that it's your business. They're going to try to make it their business in terms of what they want to talk about because they feel they got the right to talk about whatever they want to talk about. And the fact that your situation was in court documents, that made it a matter of public record, which gives them the authorization to talk about it as often as they want to. And Dwight Howard is going to have to live with that reality. You can tell people to mind their business, just don't expect them to. And in the end, in my personal opinion, I have no knowledge of this. I've never been told anything about this because, damn it, I never asked. But I suspect that if he's not in somebody's locker room, that plays a role. And I'm stating that because I think if that is the case, it would be unfortunate and unfair. Now, we've had people like Jason Collins and others come out, and I believe John Amici, if I remember correctly, come out years ago and acknowledge things about themselves. And so it wouldn't be the first if that ended up being the case with Dwight Howard. I don't know. But I will say that appears to be the only excuse because I think when I'm looking at 30 NBA teams, you can't tell me. I want to state this for the record, and these two have nothing to do with each other, and I can assure you, the DeMarcus Cousins ain't got that problem. You know what I'm saying? So I can promise you that. But people like Dwight Howard, DeMarcus Cousins, those two names come to my mind. There is no excuse for those two people to be out of the NBA. As talent, as big men talent in the NBA. You can't tell me that 30 teams don't need one of those two guys. That is a lie. Boogie Cousins was averaging 28 a night before he tore his Achilles. Boogie Cousins can't run up and down the court the way that he used to for 30 minutes, 35 minutes a night. But I could put Boogie Cousins in for 20 minutes and he could give me a double-double per night. He could shoot. He got a post game. He's got a mid-range games. He's a big body. He can punish you. There is no excuse for Boogie Cousins not to be on an NBA roster. But in case you haven't seen the Adonis that is Dwight Howard with the paucity or the lack thereof when it comes to shot blocking ability in the NBA, Dwight Howard is somebody, don't tell me he don't belong in the NBA. That is bullshit. Him and DeMarcus Cousins both need to be on an NBA roster. And if they're not on an NBA roster, especially in the case of Dwight Howard, which again has nothing to do separate and apart from DeMarcus Cousins, I think this stuff involving Dwight Howard and his legal issues, his legal challenge, I think that plays a role, which brings in a huge question when it comes specifically to Dwight Howard. Is that a reason? And if that is a reason, perhaps it would have been to his benefit if indeed he veers in a different direction and he decided that he wanted to come out and, again, I don't know what he is, heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, I don't know, I don't care. But I know the LGBTQ community cares. And if indeed that was his situation, and if indeed he was to acknowledge that, I think he would have had tremendous support from that community. And there would have been pressure brought to bear as to why he's not in the league and why he had to go someplace like Taiwan, to play basketball, where he averaged 23 points and 5 assists in 20 games for some team called the Leopards out there. Again, I don't know what his situation is. I don't know the specifics. I'm not asking until I speak to him directly. I don't know. I'm only going by the reports. But no matter what his situation is, I'm not judging him. That's his personal business. I know that he's talented enough as a big man to be in the NBA. And I don't think that can be refuted by anybody. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I've seen too many teams that got big men that can't play for him to be out of the league. And again, on a separate note, I hate mentioning big men and don't mention DeMarcus Cousins. Because to me, there's no excuse for him not to be in the league. I don't think there's 5 big men in basketball better than him, let alone 30. But that's just me.